This episode of the ABIC podcast is brought to you by SPA+CLINIC magazine. Hello and welcome to the ABIC podcast, your online support community for the aesthetic and beauty industry. Here, we're strengthening and unifying the industry through representation, innovation, and education. This is a platform created and dedicated to the aesthetic and beauty industry, valuing unity and advancement. We serve to represent, support, and inspire you by connecting you with industry experts, expanding your knowledge through educational pieces, and bringing you the latest industry news. This is the ABIC podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Miller, and today's guest is Nadine Dilong from SPA+CLINIC. Nadine leads SPA+CLINIC as the managing editor with extensive experience in the aesthetic and beauty industry. With 18 years in journalism, having worked as the beauty editor for several publications, as well as assistant manager for one of Sydney's leading plastic surgery clinics, Nadine knows both sides of the industry and thrives on bringing her vision and fresh ideas to SPA+CLINIC. Here to discuss the evolution of beauty and aesthetic journalism over the past 25 years, from SPA+CLINIC, today we welcome Nadine Dilong. Welcome to the podcast, Nadine. It's so lovely to have you today.
Thank you so much. Really excited to be here.
Well, as are we. Before we get into it, you're celebrating your 25th year as SPA+CLINIC. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's such a long time, isn't it?
This magazine is an industry icon and has seen all the changes that have happened in our industry, which have been a multitude over such a big, long span of time. How does it feel?
Yeah, it feels pretty crazy. I mean, obviously, I haven't worked on the magazine for 25 years. I'm a little bit too young for that, but I've been the editor for the past 7 years. And so I clearly remember us celebrating our 20th anniversary 5 years ago. And the fact that 25 has come around so quickly is just insane.
It's surreal. And yes, you are the managing editor of SPA+CLINIC. That is a huge, huge job. Tell us, how did you get there? What's your background? What's your journey to becoming such a I suppose, industry icon?
Thank you. Yeah, I guess it's always nice to tell people a little bit about me because, not everyone would know me, and people always pick up my accent, which is a little bit weird, and nobody can really pick where it's from. So.
Yes, I remember the first time meeting you, I had the same experience.
Yeah, so to let everyone know what my weird accent is, I'm from Germany. I'm from Berlin, and I've spent the first 25 years of my life there. And I've always worked as a journalist. Back then, when I was a teenager, I always wanted to be a fashion journalist. So that's where I started in Germany. I had one of the first fashion blogs back when nobody understood what a blog was.
Wow.
And that was, relatively successful. And I covered fashion weeks and all of that. And so that's how I got into journalism. And then I met my now husband, who's from Sydney, and I moved to Australia. And that was in 2014, and had to sort of start fresh because I obviously didn't know anyone. I had all my contacts in Germany, but didn't really know anyone here. And so I did a few internships. I worked at Elle magazine for a bit. And then I met Dr. Warwick Nettle, who's a very renowned plastic surgeon from Sydney, and his wife, Angie. And they needed help at their clinic, Silkwood. And because, I didn't have a full-time job at that time, and we got along really well, I was like, yeah, sure, I can help you out. Bit of marketing, bit of admin. Didn't know much about the aesthetic industry, but I ended up working for them for 3 years. And so I learned everything about the aesthetics industry. I worked with one of the best plastic surgeons in the world, probably, and got to see his procedures. And he had a little medi-spa attached to the plastic surgery clinic as well. So I worked with the dermal clinicians who ran the medi-spa. I learned everything about laser treatments, facials, microneedling, body contouring. They offered it all. And I became the assistant manager for Silkwood Medical. And I still did the marketing side of things. So I wrote their blog articles and newsletters and did their social media. And I was still writing for some other magazines on the side. So then my two worlds merged when the role of editor at Spa and Clinic became available. I was like, I'm doing that, but that would merge both sides. And so in 2017, I became editor of Spa and Clinic.
Wow, what a story. So you fell in love with our industry. You're already in love with journalism, and then your two loves clashed and combined.
Yeah.
It became the most perfect job. Wow, that's a beautiful story. I love that. It is a love story. And you know what? Everybody who does come into this industry, who stays, has absolutely fallen in love with it. And it is very special. And to be able to write about it and capture it in such a beautiful, eloquent way that you always do is a beautiful thing for our industry. We're very lucky to have you.
Well, thank you so much. That's really kind.
You know, Sparring Clinic is such an interesting magazine. It combines news, but also education and also insights and real heart and feel in the soul of our community. For those who haven't heard, I don't think there's many out there, but for those who haven't heard about Sparring Clinic, what is this magazine that is so iconic in our industry?
Yeah, so Spa and Clinic is Australia's leading B2B title for the aesthetics and wellness industry. As we just touched on, we have been around for 25 years, which not many people realize. I think we've gained quite a few readers in the past few years, and they might think that it's something new and that hasn't been around, but it actually has. And we communicate directly to industry professionals. So that includes doctors, plastic surgeons, practice and spa managers, cosmetic nurses, beauty and dermal therapists, skin and laser specialists, and day spa operators across mainly Australia, but we also have some readers in New Zealand and even some in Asia Pacific. And so we want to educate and inform and inspire the industry and just keep them up to date on what's happening, because there's always so much happening in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So much happening, but also your articles are about humans, are about people in the industry. They're about clinic owners and
Mm.
employees and what's actually happening in our industries, the struggles that we go through. So it's more than just news. It really is bringing the
Yeah.
community together, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I always had this vision of, because it's a trade magazine, which tends to be a bit more clinical and informative than a consumer magazine, but I still wanted to make it just as sort of fun and interesting as a consumer magazine. And I always try to, get to that balance somehow, because there are obviously lots of just informative articles, but then we also want to tell people's stories. Like if you're an industry professional, you most definitely have something interesting to say, or you have your own business story, or you have struggles, or you have accomplishments that you want to communicate. And we definitely try to do that and profile the members of this amazing industry. And we do that through our quarterly print magazine. So it comes out in February, May, August, and November of each year. And then we also have our website, spaanclinic.com.au, and we have almost daily fresh content, which I think is quite unique for, a
Very
trade
unique.
title, because that's quite a lot. And we have an online editor, and she publishes daily fresh articles, original content, and that goes into a weekly newsletter that we send out on Wednesdays, which is free, so everyone should subscribe. Also, obviously, are active on social media almost every day. We share what we get up to, and any news that we sort of have on the website, we also share on social media. So please do give us a follow on Instagram at Spa and Clinic.
So worth it. You honestly, you have your finger on the pulse of everything that's happening. As I know that you are, out and about, always chatting to people, and we're talking about telling people stories. We had a
Mm.
conversation about this and how powerful it was that
Mm.
really that's what you do. You tell people's stories, and you have done for such a long time that you've actually seen many of our wonderful industry personas grow over the years, right? So we've got some fabulous industry KOLs and leaders in our industry, and people
Mm.
that are just starting out, and you pick them up when they are just starting out, and then you showcase what they're doing, and we can actually follow their journey through Sparring Clinic and keep in touch. And I think that's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and that goes for brands as well as practitioners or just members of the industry. Some start really small and they've become these huge icons of the industry, and it is interesting to see. And it's it sort of brings me joy when I write about a huge clinic that started really small that I remember writing about 5 or 6 years ago. And, they might have had a treatment menu of, I don't know, 5 treatments, maybe just facials. And now they have a holistic clinic that offers IV infusions and injectables and facials and body contouring and nutritionist services and all of that. And it's really interesting to see the kinds of people that have really grown in this industry and where they have gone, and brands as well. If there's a new skincare brand for professionals, we obviously report on it, and they might turn out to be really big and stocked in hundreds of spas and clinics. And it's really nice to see who's successful and to share their successes.
It's beautiful. It's so positive, and it sends such a wonderful message to our industry that, anything is possible, and you can start from small and
Yeah.
grow to succeed. I love that. Looking at this publication over the past 25 years, how do you think it's evolved? How do you think it's changed?
Yeah, it's changed quite a bit. A beautiful woman called Kirian Withers started it in 1999. She is one of the wellness gurus of Australia, and I think she saw this gap in the market, or the Australian spa and wellness industry was relatively small in 1999, and she thought, let's support it. Let's create a publication and consulting service. And she did all kinds of things. And she started the magazine, which was back then called Spa Australasia. So a lot of people might know that or remember that name and not realize that it's the same magazine as Spa and Clinic. So back then it was more about wellness and spa. And then I think because the industry changed so rapidly over the following years, obviously we had to adapt, and it became a little bit more about aesthetics as well and medical treatments that were on the rise. And so that was reflected in the content of the magazine. And in 2014, it was rebranded and renamed to Spa and Clinic to reflect the change in the industry, because obviously, even like nowadays, it's even stronger, that the merging of wellness and aesthetics, and having holistic spaces that offer everything and that look at you as a person and not just as you have wrinkles, let's treat that. So yeah, the magazine has evolved quite a bit. Now it has a very strong focus on aesthetics because it's just so big in the market. I mean, wellness is huge too, don't get me wrong, and we report on that. But when it comes to especially like new treatments and innovations, it's usually the aesthetic devices that bring out, the innovations that people are interested in. So there is a strong focus on doctors and cosmetic nurses, and yeah, just everything really that happens in the industry. So that's how it's changed. And then digital media has obviously become a lot more important. In 1999, we didn't even have a website. So, it's changed a lot. And when I became editor in 2017, we had a website and we had the social media channels, but I don't think the focus was on them. And I've obviously had to change that because it's such a huge part of media these days. So we have a lot more content online. We're a lot more nimble, and we have a lot more content in general to keep people informed about everything. So yeah, it has evolved, it has changed, but at the core, it's still about supporting the industry.
Oh, I love what you've just said. A couple of things just really stood out to me is the merging of wellness, spa, and clinic. And you were really ahead of your time there to actually rebrand. So I suppose proactively to combine spa and clinic together, to combine that wellness and the more aesthetic side. And of course, we are seeing an even stronger merge between the two, and we will see in the next 5 to 10 years longevity, wellness, age reversal from the inside out. And we're seeing this, and now it's very modality focused, but we are going to be seeing the merging of the inside and the outside together to get incredible results for our clients and patients, and in general with aesthetics. So I think that forward thinking view of your magazine is what always stands out. You always seem to be at the forefront of the industry. You were saying, you're a resource for aesthetics and wellness. Tell us exactly what you offer that community.
Yes, so I always like to say we offer information, education, and inspiration. So obviously there's information, there's the legalities that are constantly changing. I mean, I don't even want to bring up UPRA and TGA. We all know it's been a bit of a confusing whirlwind of changes in the industry in the past few months. So obviously we inform our readers about that. We were actually, I think, the first publication to write an article about some of the changes, and it was quite a stir up in the industry, and people were like, "What?" So yes, we try to be at the forefront and obviously communicate to all the different bodies to always get the news first. So that's the information bit. Education, I have a lot of contributors that obviously write articles for me for SPA and Clinic. It's not like I write all of them and you just hear my opinion. That would be silly. I have, experts in different fields that write about different things. It could be a new technique, a new facial technique, or a new treatment modality, combination that hasn't been done before. So we sort of educate about different things that you can do as a practitioner. We have a lot of business advice as well in the magazine, in the publication. So we really just try to sort of cover all bases that might interest a practitioner.
SPA and Clinic is Australia's leading B2B title for the aesthetic and wellness market, communicating directly to industry professionals, including doctors, plastic surgeons, practice and spa managers, cosmetic nurses, beauty and dermal therapists, skin and laser specialists, and day spa operators across Australia, New Zealand, and Asia Pacific. Across their quarterly print magazine, their website with fresh daily content, their weekly e-newsletter, and active social media presence, SPA and Clinic informs thousands of savvy business owners and their staff by delivering the how, why, and what of the rapidly evolving Medi-Spa, wellness, and aesthetic business. Led by industry expert and managing editor Nadine Dilong, SPA and Clinic promises to raise industry standards and profitability by informing readers and encouraging best practice across the industry. A must-read for owners, management, and staff of all types of aesthetic and wellness businesses. SPA and Clinic has inspired readers since 1999 and is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year.
And then we want to inspire. So that's where we come back to telling your story. If there's someone that started a business and it's going really strong and successful, we want to share the success and we want to talk about how they've done it and hopefully inspire our readers to do the same and to have the confidence to build something for themselves.
Well, I know personally I've been many a time inspired by reading SPA and Clinic, and for me the news is very important as well, because obviously the Aesthetic and Beauty Industry Council is all about, changes in the industry, regulation, trying to help our industry progress and elevate. But the soul, and when I say the soul of it, I mean the feeling behind our industry. You capture it so well by telling those stories and inspiring us, because of course information without context is just kind of bland, it's lost. The reason that so many people read your magazine is because of that beautiful connection that you get. So you get the information, but you also get fulfilled and inspired, and we love that. And part of that is the feeling. It's not just seeing it online, but you actually have a print magazine, and you haven't given up on that, Nadine.
No.
Good on you, because
Never.
I think that's a big strong point of SPA and Clinic, and it's very unique in this day and age. Tell us why you stuck to it.
Yeah, I'm very proud because we were one of the very few magazines that even through COVID continued to print, to go to print. A lot of magazines had to go digital only for a few months or even a couple of years, and we continued in print. And I think that shows that people really appreciate our print magazine. I know that in general, society is a bit like, or especially Australia, and not so much actually overseas, but Australia is a bit like, oh, print is dead. We'll just get our news and everything from digital. And for certain topics and certain things, I get it. I get my news from digital media as well. But there's a difference between digital news and a website where you read, short articles and having a print magazine. So I think people need to understand that we have the luxury with print to work on our articles for a longer period of time. So a lot of digital editors have to pump out 5, 6, 7 articles a day. They might spend 45 minutes on one and get the gist of something, which we need as well, but it's just different. I can work on a story over a few weeks and interview different people and get different opinions. And so it's just a bit more thought out and like a little bit more mindful, I would call it. And the stories can just be told on a deeper level. And it's just nice also to hold a magazine in your hands, to take your 10, 15, 20 minutes to actually read it, make yourself a cup of tea, a cup of coffee. We always talk about mindfulness and wellness, and I feel like magazines are such a big part of that, or can be and should be. And then the other aspect is our readers, clinic owners, actually love having the magazine in their clinics, in their waiting rooms. And we know that lots of patients also read through our magazines while they wait. And that's a lovely thing to have. And then it's obviously also a way to profile yourself. If you have a feature in our magazine, you can get a little stand with a magazine and show it, which is also, it just has a little bit more impact, I feel, than an online article, which is just a little bit more short-lived.
That's so smart, showcasing if you're actually part of Sparring Clinic, to actually showcase that in your clinic. I have a clinic and I love having the Sparring Clinic magazines in the lunchroom, and we all actually share them around and we read them and we have lunch and read it. And I feel like it's so much, I don't know, it's just a sense of you're not on your phone. It's more social. You show someone a picture, you relate over that magazine, and it's something there that everybody's picked up and they've shared and they've had in common in our in our lunchroom. I think it just makes, I don't know, inspires the girls. They'll come and say to me, oh goodness, have a look at this, what's come out, check out this new treatment or check out this new product. I think it does give a sense of excitement, and holding it in your hand is definitely a different experience than holding your phone, isn't it?
I agree, yeah. And, we always try to make it look pretty as well. Our covers, I always want a person on the cover and not just a product. I think it's very important, again, because I want to tell the story behind the product or the brand and not just go, here's a product you should buy, but this is who's using the product and here's why they love it. So yeah, that's very important.
Sparring Clinic, we're just talking about the differences between having a print magazine versus a digital magazine, but there's so many things that are unique about Sparring Clinic. How do you think it stands out compared to other publications?
Yeah, it's a bit more than just words printed in a magazine or on a website. We're almost a consultation service, I feel. So if you want to work with us, so my colleague Kim, who's the partnerships manager, and I, you'll be working with the two of us. And, we always meet with brands who want to work with us and actually talk about what they want to achieve. And then we give a lot of advice on how they can achieve it. So we don't just take your money and put an ad in our magazine, because that's very short-term thinking. And that's not how it works anymore. So because Kim and I are always out and about, as you said, we go to all the conferences, we go to many events, brand launches, clinic events as well. We talk to practitioners all the time. We know what's going on and we know what works and what doesn't. And so we're very happy to actually give advice to brands and people that want to work with us. And that's part of the service. It's not just, oh, you want an article, okay, give me information, I'll write it. So in that sense, we offer more than that. And we always want to create original content. So in most situations, we try to come up with a really unique angle for you, to really point out your point of difference so that our readers are interested and are engaged. It's very hard these days, marketing. You really have to stand out. And so it's very important to us to come up with an angle that works not just for us, but for you as a brand. We want you to be successful. We want you to be a long-term partner of ours. So yeah, it's more than just a magazine.
Goodness me, when you were speaking, I just realized the enormity of your role. You actually attend pretty much all the conferences. You go to openings of clinics, you actually publish a magazine, you do all the behind the scenes, and there's yourself and Kim. My goodness, how do you keep this straight in your head? And what does a day in your job role look like?
Yeah, it's pretty full on most of the time, but I like that no 2 days are the same. I mean, if you're someone that just wants to have an office job 9 to 5, this would not be the role for you. But I like that it's always different. My days vary so much. It could literally be just me in front of my laptop typing up stories and replying to lots of emails. Emails, unfortunately, are a very big part, as they are of most jobs these days. So it's just a lot of communication. But then there are days when we're out at conferences. So for example, we just went to NSS on the Gold Coast. That was 4 days of just being there and being at the conference. We usually partner with the conferences in some way. So we were the media partner, or we have been the media partner of NSS for a long time. And I go and I obviously cover the event. So I'm there and I try to go to as many sessions as I can to just absorb all the information so I can write about it. But then I also meet with a lot of the KOLs and the speakers, and I interview them for our different channels. And then it's just a whole lot of networking as well. So those are the conference days. And as you would agree, there are more and more conferences in this industry. I'm not sure what is going on, but aesthetics loves conference.
I can tell you, I think we're conferenced out.
Little bit, yeah. So we spend a lot of time at conferences, but it's very valuable for us because I obviously get lots of ideas and content from them, but it's just time consuming. I don't think a lot of people realize, if you're at a conference almost every week sometimes, of course we have to make up for that time because I still need time to actually write the stories and produce content for our magazine. But then I also have days where I'm doing our product photo shoots. So in every issue, we have 2 photo shoots of new product launches or a certain type of product. So we work with a photographer in a studio, and I also, style the photo shoots and execute them. And then there are days where I'm just in meetings with, brands that want to work with us or with my team at the office. So it's a little bit of everything. And yes, I also obviously get treatments and I get to try a lot. I'm a bit more conservative, I have very sensitive skin, so I definitely don't get everything I get offered, but I am very lucky in that way. And I get to try a lot of spas and clinics around Australia, which is important for my job because it's much easier to write about something when you've experienced it. It's hard, I find, to write about a treatment that you've never had. So
I need to enlist you to do a masterclass on time management.
you have to be organized, that's for sure. Thankfully, that's one of my strengths. I'm very organized and I'm good at time management. So that comes in very handy with this role. Yeah.
Sure. What is the secret to good time management? Tell us.
I don't know. I'm just a person who constantly has a to-do list in my mind. I'm always like trying to think about, did I forget something? What do I have to do today? And then I just do it step by step. I'm not sure everyone works that way. I don't think so. So that's just, yeah, I'm just very like organized in my mind. I try to just have a to-do list and then work on that every day. Yeah.
Speaking of time management, do you feel as a person that works and has a family that we are just bombarded with too much work? There's not enough hours in the day and there's too much work to do. The age of digital, I feel like everyone is feeling the same way, especially
Yeah.
in salon owners.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a struggle for most people. I don't know anyone that's like, oh, I'm happy with my work-life balance. Everyone's trying to balance it and to have a bit more time for family. But I think it's slowly changing. I don't know about you, but I feel like COVID's helped a little bit. Then we almost went back to our old ways. But I feel like, with more and more focus on wellness, we're at least trying to work a little bit less or work smarter. I mean, AI is
Love
here.
that.
There are a few things you can do that might save you some time. But yeah, especially in publishing, it's hard. Like 10 years ago, you used to have one editor for a category in a magazine, and now they literally work across 3 different magazines. It's a challenge, which is why you need to love what you do, otherwise you're just getting burnt out.
You do. If you have a passion for what you're doing, you're loving the actual action of working, it does help.
Mm.
But still, for those out there listening, heed Nadine's advice and do take a little bit of time for yourself as well, because it does refresh and reset your mind. I feel like salons and clinic owners need to take that little bit of advice because they are running. I speak to so many of them through ABIC and they're running off their feet. So take a time, have a cup of tea and read Spa and Clinic. You were talking about brands earlier. If you're a brand and you want to get featured in Spa and Clinic, how do you do this? How do you go about getting onto the pages?
Absolutely. It's honestly as simple as emailing me or emailing Kim. Our email addresses are on our website, spaandclinic.com.au, so you can find them on the About page if you want to get in touch. It's not just for brands, also for practitioners. I just want to say we are always looking for stories, for good stories. I think a lot of people think it's very complicated to get featured in a magazine. And, it might be different for consumer magazines, but remember that our industry is still very niche and relatively small. So I'm always open to ideas. So if you have something you want to share, just email me. Please include as much information as you can, introduce yourself and just understand that we're a B2B magazine. So your peers will read about you if you're in our magazine. And for brands, it's obviously super relevant. If you're a professional beauty or aesthetics or wellness brand, our readers are literally the people you want to reach. So if we tell your story in our magazine, you have thousands of people that are potential clients for you, read about it. So just email us. We're always happy to meet in person, on Zoom, over the phone, however, to discuss what it is that you represent, what you want to communicate, and we can work with anything and anyone. We always find a way and an angle. So just reach out.
Well, that's beautiful. And especially now that you are celebrating your 25th year, I'm sure that your next issue and every issue this year is going to be jam-packed full of how the industry has evolved and new brands and new exciting things. Speaking of, how are you going to celebrate 25 years, Nadine?
With a big party.
I love it.
Yeah, so we're going to have a bit of a party at the beginning of September. We want to give back. We're going to do an invitation only party in Sydney, and we just want to have a fun night of looking back at the past 25 years and thanking some of our most loyal brand partners and some of our contributors and readers. And just celebrate, because 25 years for a magazine is quite big, as you said, especially for such a niche industry. And yes, our 25th anniversary issue will be the November issue. So that will be the last one of the year. And we'll have lots of fun features in there, looking back, looking ahead, with lots of great contributors. So I can't wait.
Oh, that's gorgeous. And finally, I'd love to ask you, you talk about brand partners and you talk about partners in general. And obviously, a few years ago, you decided to partner with the Aesthetic and Beauty Industry Council. And we're very thankful for your contribution to the industry. You're always so supportive. And your contribution obviously subsidizes all the clinics and salons that are members. So I'm not sure if everyone knows, but generous supporters such as SPA+CLINIC actually make it possible for you as members to be able to get access to HR, IR, a facilitator at a greatly reduced cost. So it is really important to have supporters such as SPA+CLINIC. But why did you decide to partner with us as an industry body?
Because we have the same vision, I think. We want to support the industry. We want to unite the industry, as tricky as that is. And I admire you for trying to do that, because there are a lot of different types of businesses in the industry, and it's never really been done before. It used to be very segmented. So we just thought it just makes sense, because you're doing the work of sort of being a voice for the industry and of creating change. And we can then communicate that as, the leading B2B magazine. So it just made sense to partner and support everyone and just give another way of creating change and making this industry better.
Thank you so much for that. And I know that our industry and all of our members are so appreciative of the contribution and of the support that we get from all of our foundation and supply members. And obviously, SPA+CLINIC is a foundation member, so one of our highest tiers of membership. So Nadine, thank you so much for your support. You're always there for us. It's such a pleasure having you on the podcast. Please come again.
Well, thank you. Definitely. This was fun.
Thank you.
You've reached the end of another episode of the ABIC podcast, your online support community for the aesthetic and beauty industry. Thank you for listening, and until next time, stay connected.